Welcome to the Flex Rental Solutions Best Practices series. Today we're going to be talking about shipping methods and how you can best utilize them in your Flex system. So you've probably noticed that by default, your quote element has a header block option for shipping method. And there are some default shipping methods that Flex just has by default. You can view these different shipping methods on the System Settings menu and by clicking on Shipping Methods. You can double click on any of these to change any of the settings. Or from the Shipping Methods menu, you could click New Shipping Method. Let's set up another one really quick. And let's say we already have one semi in our system, but let's say that we want to be able to utilize two different semi trucks. So let's set up a semi 2. The code is just the way that Flex will reference this particular shipping method within Flex. It's an optional thing, but it's always helpful to have something there. The type, again, the rest of these are all optional, but the type you could just say, choose one of these predefined options. This would be ground freight. The transit time, this would be the minimum number of days for transit and the maximum number. For a semi, we would probably just leave those as 0 because if it's your own semi and the transit time really depends on how far the job is. It could be a couple blocks away, it could be in another state. So it's hard to say, just give a general estimate for the transit time. So this one we can leave blank. The waybill template, this is actually, you could set up a raw printer template, and that's covered in another lesson, but you could set up a template where you could print shipping labels and things like that. And the shipping cost rules is another advanced feature that's covered in another lesson. So let's click Create. And if we go back and reload the shipping methods, we now see we have a semi 2. Let's quickly edit this one as well and just call it semi 1, just so we can differentiate. We'll give that a ground freight as well. Let's edit a couple more of these and provide a little bit more information in them just so that we can utilize that information later as we're setting up our system. So we'll give box truck a code. We'll also call that ground freight. We probably don't need a transit time on that either. And then let's open our FedEx. And we'll say, I guess it depends on if it's the ground or air, but let's just say that this one is ground. And you could say that you estimate it between a minimum of 3 days and a maximum of 5. And let's do the same for UPS. In fact, on this one, let's do 2 to 4. So you can do that to any of your shipping methods here. Maybe we'll also do it to the van. And we would just consider this a van that we own. So we would say the transit time is 0. So now if we go back and reload, then you can see all of the changes that we have made. And so now we want to look at how you can actually use all of these that we've created in your system and how it can help you in tracking the logistics information for your jobs. And so obviously the first place that we saw where you can actually track the shipping method is just right here on the quote header in the working view. This information is also available in the warehouse view. But let's say that you have a logistics manager that wants to be able to see all of this information for all of the quotes in your system. So the way that we would do that is to set up a new search column in our projects menu and quotes list. So this list by default just shows some simple things like name and number, the client, things like that, the account manager, status. But what you can do is actually add a few more columns with that shipping information that we just created. To do that, we're going to go to Projects, Project Elements, and then double click on Quote. And then we're going to look at the Search Options tab. And here is where we would add any of these rows here. These are what those columns were when we opened up the Projects and Quotes search page. So we can add a column from this screen right here. So let's add the shipping method. And the expression needs to be copied exact. So it's case sensitive. It's going to be shipping, then capital M method, then .name. So make sure and copy this exactly as you see it. And you'll notice that it turned green, and that's just indicating that this is a good expression. So we'll click Add, and then let's actually move that to, maybe we'll move it to right before status. So you can just click, drag, and drop to move things like that. You can also utilize the shipping type. So remember, we could set up the shipping type for each shipping method. You had the ground freight, air, things like that. So if you want to be able to see the shipping type, then you can use that as well. The expression for this is pretty similar, but instead of name this time, you're going to say type. So again, that's element.shippingMethod with a capital M .type. We'll click plus to add, and then let's move that to right after the shipping method. And the last thing that you can use is actually the estimated minimum and the estimated maximum times. So let's just say, or we'll start with the minimum time. And the expression is going to be, this one's a little bit more tricky. It's going to be dot minimum and then capital D days. So again, you have to copy this exactly as you see it with the same capitalization and all of that. So then we'll click plus, and let's move that up here. And let's do the max time as well. And then this one's going to be maximum days with capital D. Oops, let's move that right below minimum time. Okay, so now let's click Update. And then if we go back to Projects and Quotes, then you'll see these new columns that we just created. And what you can do from here is that each user, when they open this Projects and Quotes page, they can set their own preferences. So what you can do is click on the Preferences icon and say, I don't really need to see the parent name, the company or the department, or created by. Really, I only want to see the status and the shipping information and the quote name. So for that particular user, they can change those preferences and then click the Save Preferences icon and click Save. And now anytime that this user logs back in and then opens Projects and Quotes, then they will see this screen with these columns. But then if I were to log out and log in as a different user, and they went to Projects and Quotes, then they would see the default. So they would still see the company name and all that other information that we deleted. So this page is dependent on the user that's logged in and their preferences, and that will be different for each user in whatever they've saved. So if I were the logistics manager, then maybe this is what I would want my quote search page to look like. And of course, if I had all of the logistics information input for all of these quotes, then this would be showing quite a bit more. And so then at that point, I can narrow the search down and just look for semi 1 or semi 2, etc. Or I could search things that are being shipped via FedEx. And so it makes it really easy for, like I said, anyone who might be a logistics manager or in charge of that to pull up this screen and have a very easy way of seeing all the different shipping methods that are being utilized for each job. So that's one way that you can do it. And another way is that you can actually create a custom calendar that will have that same information on it. So let's start by, we'll just be on our normal calendar right now. Then we'll click Edit. And let's just start by, well, first, I always like to just create the Save As copy, just so I know that the original calendar is safe. I'm not going to be making any changes to that. So I hit Save As Copy, and it created this copy of calendar. Now let's go in and let's call this the logistics calendar. And we don't really have to change any of this information. You can if you want, of course, but what we really want to look at is the list columns over here. So again, you probably want the start, end, and status on there. The due date probably isn't as important from a logistics standpoint. So we can delete that one and then add, just like we did for the quote search page, that will be the caption, and then we'll add the shipping method element expression. So we'll click plus. We could move it if we want, but I'll just leave it at the end of the list. And then I could put the shipping type on there as well. And the minimum days. And the maximum days. And so now when I click Save, now we have all of that information on this logistics calendar. Again, just a really easy way for a logistics manager to come over, click on the logistics calendar, and see exactly what each quote is utilizing for their shipping method. If you're using the shipping type, which again was optional, but if you are using the shipping type, then you can see that information there and the minimum and maximum days that you can expect that shipping to take place. You could also, if you want to use a report and print all this information, then you can email support@flexrentalsolutions.com and request a custom report. Because right now, out of all of our quote reports, we don't necessarily have one that shows all of that logistics information. So it would be a custom report that you can email support and just let them know what your requests are, what you want the report to look like, and what information you want it to have, and they can get you an estimate on how much that custom report will cost and how long it will take. And that will be uploaded in your custom reports, and you will be able to use that custom report from your reports tab. So that's how you can utilize shipping methods in your system. As you notice, there's really no wrong or right way to do that. You have several different options in how you can view that information. You can use as much of this information as you want or as little. For example, some people might not care about the shipping type and the days, so they just might want only the shipping method to be on there. And then you could do the same thing on the quote search page. We'll delete the type, the minimum time, and the maximum time. And so it's really just up to you and what works best for your company and what information would be most useful to you. But that's always the beauty of Flex, is that there are many ways to do one thing, and it's really just up to what's most comfortable for you. So if you have any questions about shipping methods or anything else that we talked about, during this best practices video, then please email support@flexrentalsolutions.com.